This is Chris. He sat next to me on the plane and accompanied me to go get breakfast at one of my favorite spots, Holy Belly.
Hello, bonjour.
He didn't tell me that I had chocolate on my face after eating a croissant. After hanging out with Chris for a bit, I joined up with my family who flew in on a later flight.
Hello. Yay!
My mom wanted to get up early and take photos by the Eiffel Tower, so we put on our best outfits and headed over. It was really a beautiful morning and fun to see people taking photos in this perfect spot. I was feeling the lighting. After that, I split up from my family and had some lunch at a vegan spot called Jaja. It was really good and recommended to me by a new friend who works at Holy Belly. And then we went to the...
Where are we, babe? We're at the Notre Dame.
That was my first time at the Notre Dame, and it was beautiful. After a few days with my sister and my parents in Paris, I went to Giverny on a day trip. This was my first time traveling alone outside of Paris.
Bonjour, je suis à la jardin de Monet et la maison de Monet aussi. I am at the Monet House and Gardens right now. It's my first time here. It's a beautiful morning. It is close to 11 a.m. right now. It's a little bit dreary out, like not rainy, but it feels like it might rain. Here is the garden.
This was a sweet couple that was a part of my tour group, and the guy that you just saw, he took this video of me on the bridge and followed me the whole way walking. Most of these were shot on my iPhone, but I also brought with me my dad's old camcorder, which is the reason why some of these videos look a little bit more vintagey. It only took about an hour and a half to get to Giverny from Paris, so I highly recommend anyone do this. It's a great day trip to take.
And now I'm headed into the house.
The garden was so beautiful and well maintained, and something I really loved about visiting was the house was just gorgeous. Every room kind of had its own color scheme and beautiful vibrant colors that matched the flowers outside.
My baby just cares for me. This is the church where Monet, this is the church that Monet is buried at. Church bells.
When I got back to Paris that night, I met up with my friend Lucia.
Manque pas quand tu t'en vas, mais tu vas bien quand tu reviens, car plus je t'embrasse, plus j'aime t'embrasser. Je ne peux m'en lasser. J'en ai tellement d'envie que j'oublie tout dans la vie. C'est insensé ce que j'aime t'embrasser. Okay, that was just the warm-up.
I went to go see the outside of the apartment Vincent van Gogh lived at in Paris. And for my next trip outside of Paris, I went to Auvers-sur-Oise, where Vincent and his brother Theo are buried. That's me looking somber. It's amazing how someone can die so long ago and you still feel such big feelings. Feelings for someone you've never met and never will meet, but who has touched your life in such an impactful way. Vincent himself said maybe God made him a painter for people who weren't born yet, and that maybe in 100 years' time people would see his art and it would make them happy.
I just went to Vincent's grave, and now I am walking to, I think this is where he painted. I'm in Auvers-sur-Oise. It's kind of a gloomy day, but it sort of feels right to be visiting Van Gogh on a day like today. I am now on my way to l'Église de Notre-Dame, which is the church that Van Gogh painted. Something I didn't know prior to this trip was that Van Gogh's funeral service was supposed to be at this church, but they denied him because he had committed suicide and also because he was a Protestant. And they even didn't provide the transportation to get his casket up to the cemetery, so another nearby church had to help out. Van Gogh's brother Theo had already printed the invitations to the service with the name of this church on it, and so he had to personally scratch out the name of the church and handwrite where the service was going to be. It's sort of ironic that this place that was so, in many ways, cruel to Van Gogh when he lived here is now very much all about how he lived here, and people make their living based off of the fact that he lived here. There's a lot of tourism around the fact that he lived here. There's the Park of Van Gogh. There is the Street of Van Gogh, statues of him, a trail where you can follow in his footsteps. Now this whole place celebrates his legacy.
I've always loved Vincent van Gogh, but over the last 2 years I've been doing a deep dive on his life and learning as much as I can about him, reading the letters he exchanged with his brother Theo, and also with his friend Emile Bernard, reading biographies on him, and watching films like Lust for Life, Vincent and Theo, Loving Vincent, and At Eternity's Gate, all movies about the artist.
I'm in the corner of the restaurant that Van Gogh would always sit at. Cheers to Van Gogh.
Van Gogh lived upstairs from this restaurant at the end of his life, and his funeral service was held in this very room. This is the town hall Van Gogh painted, and a local museum. Zonder is where Van Gogh is from, in the Netherlands. I didn't get to go to the Chateau de Auvers because it was fully booked, but the outside property was very nice.
Now I'm at the house of Dr. Gachet, who treated Van Gogh at the end of his life, and it's a really beautiful property that I'm currently walking around.
Vincent painted his famous portrait of Dr. Gachet right here. and Vincent's brother Theo, and Theo's wife Johanna, who played a very key role in preserving Vincent's memory, all gathered around that table. Lots of the Impressionist artists came to visit this house. It's rich with history.
Right now I'm in Dr. Guichet's house, and Vincent used to stand right where I'm standing with his back to the window, which apparently made his hair and his beard look even more crazy and more red and fiery than it already normally did. And this very room is where Vincent met Dr. Guichet for the first time. He waited for him at the table here, and there was all sorts of art on the walls here as reproduced in this room. No one is here. I think I'm the only person in this museum, which is crazy, but very cool. I don't think I've ever had a museum entirely to myself before. There's not even docents here. It's really strange.
This room is where Vincent received his first assessment by Dr. Gachet. I stayed the night in Auvers-sur-Oise in a very charming Airbnb, and then it was back to Paris, where I got to see the Wes Anderson exhibition.
Well, I bet Mom would have wanted us to be.
My favorite part of this exhibition was seeing all the storyboards that Wes Anderson had hand-drawn. It was really inspiring. My initial plan was to go to Arles, France, in the south, Provence, where Vincent had cut off his ear, but I couldn't get a train, so I had to change my plans. But hey, who can complain about a few extra days in Paris? And of course, I had to do a self-tape while I was in Paris. Thankfully, I had a friend in town, Zach, who really came through for me and helped me out.
Rolling. Rolling. Action. Okay, one more time. And rolling.
I'm Taylor Blackwell. I'm 5'5", based in New York, currently in Paris on vacation, but I get back in a day. Thanks. Then we went to go see the Hackney exhibition together.
Look over there. The big splash. Is that what it's called?
I think so. I think that one's the bigger splash.
That's the bigger splash.
No, it's not called the big splash. It's a portrait, actually.
It's just called the portrait.
We messed up.
We're at, what is this museum? The Louis Vuitton Museum Foundation. Bye. Van Gogh.
This is a wall of Hackney's inspirations, and he actually had a lot of Van Gogh on the wall. After the Hackney and a day of walking around, Zach and I met up with some of his friends for dinner.
Nous sommes à l'industrie. À bientôt, merci.
The next morning, I went to one of my favorite spots, Cloud Cakes, for some breakfast.
I'm standing right now in front of the Saint-Eustache Church. I hope I said that right. And this is, I believe, the second biggest church in Paris after the Notre Dame. And it's also where Keith Haring made a triptych that is still in the church. And it's a work that he made towards the very end of his life. So we're going to go inside and find it. Okay, we're now inside the church. So we're gonna go find You can see the triptych behind me, so you get a sense of the scale of it. It's very large. Haring had a real fondness and connection to the city of Paris. He even thought about living here, but instead had his apartment in New York modeled after the Ritz Hotel in Paris. Because he wanted to have a piece of his art permanently on display in Paris, Yoko Ono donated this piece to this church. And I would imagine it's a very big honor to, as an American artist, have your artwork in a French church, especially where churches hardly ever have modern art. To have a triptych made in the late 80s by an American is truly unbelievable and a true testament to Keith Haring. This piece was made as a symbol of hope for people who were experiencing the AIDS crisis. I think it's also a really beautiful full circle moment that Keith Haring, who had a strong connection to his Christianity and his faith, especially in his early teen years, is now forever on display in this church. And a lot of Keith Haring works have in them Christian motifs and symbols. So this is a really, really great example of that. And the radiant baby is right in the middle, being swaddled by its mother. But this church is really fantastic and massive and has beautiful high ceilings. It's known for its big organ, and it is really such a beautiful place to house a Keith Haring work, especially a work that was towards the end of his life.
I found this great French comic all about the history of pop art. Another very inspiring exhibition about Agnes Varda that focused on her photography work. Zach and I met up and we went to this artist space, a sort of gallery/residency program for artists. I believe 15 of the artists here are permanent and 15 are on a rotating basis every 6 months. I showed Zach my acting chops for how to do a tourism commercial. And he took this video of me outside of a cafe where we stopped to rest our feet.
Bonjour. I am at the Necker Children's Hospital, otherwise known as Les Necker les Enfants Malades. It's a hospital for sick children, and Keith Haring in 1987 made this outdoor painting, a mural, that was the word I was looking for the children who were currently at this hospital, and also, he said, for the children to come to this hospital in the future to bring some joy to their life. It's the stairwell of an abandoned building, and it's the only public work that Haring did in Paris. It was done with the help of his then boyfriend, Juan Rivera. There's also an exhibition in Paris at time of this recording called Tout Léger at the Musée de Luxembourg. Part of the exhibition features Haring and talks about how this specific tower, it's called Le Tour, was inspired by the work of Léger. 38 years later, this painting is still here and is brightening the lives of the patients currently at the hospital. People often described Haring as being childlike and being tapped into that part of himself, and also having a strong connection with children. He was the godparent of many of his friends' children. He had a power of connecting with children through his life, through his way of being, and also through his very vibrant and colorful art. A lot of Haring's work reflected that connection he had so innately with children. Haring has also painted at several children's hospitals in the United States. I'm about to go into the Ritz, which was Keith Haring's favorite place to stay when he was in Paris. So much so that he had his apartment in New York modeled after this hotel.
After another day of walking, I was very excited to go get some good vegan food at a new spot I had never tried before. I finished my trip with one last meal, back to where I started, Holy Belly.